Much for being here tonight, and I would like to start by saying congratulations to all of us for the 70th anniversary of Pakistan. Pakistan Zindabad. I'd like to also start by giving a round of gratitude to our elected officials seated here who've made time for us to be with us today on this auspicious occasion, to share with us our joy and to share with us our shared values for recognition and celebration of freedom. Pakistan and US, and I was just talking to Mayor Lily, who was very kind enough to, and with her permission, I'd like to start with an anecdote that she just narrated to me. We share a long history of the values of freedom. And both nations have paid price by blood, price by giving up our loved aspirations, our lands, our assets. And Lily was telling me that she grew up in Philadelphia, very close to where Washington was. And she often visited the place where she felt the cold that you have to endure to win freedom. And I was telling her that I just recently visited the Wagah border, a place that brings goosebumps to your arms. It brings goosebumps, it brings tears to your eyes, because that very border also saw the pain of the partition, the pain of so many families that traversed across the whole subcontinent to come to a homeland, to a place that they could call home. Freedom comes at a price. It should not be taken lightly. Freedom has a huge price. And the freedom is not just freedom of some boundaries. It's the freedom of thoughts. It's the freedom to be able to celebrate the universal human values that unite us across the continents. I just came back from Pakistan yesterday. And as I was landing, there is this sense of belonging, of coming back to home, that I feel every time that I land in California. The greenery, the beauty, the diversity that we see in this room, the willingness of all our elected officials to come share with us, that is the thing that unites us. And that is the feeling that gives you a sense of belonging, a sense of peace, a sense of being at home. Now, surprisingly, I'd just gone to Pakistan about 10 days ago, and I get the same feeling every time I land in Pakistan. I've been away from that homeland for quite a few years. And yet, every time I land, whether it's in Lahore or Karachi or Islamabad, I have a sense of belonging. I have a sense of longing, of nostalgia. And it's the same feeling that I get when I land in California. So it makes me ponder, what is it that makes a home? The two have nothing in common. One is a developed nation with a lot to celebrate in terms of what it has accomplished in intellect, in terms of legislation, in terms of successes in the commerce, in the ways of life. And the other is going over that journey. We are part of that journey. And it's still a developing nation. And yet, I love it. I have the same sense of belonging, whether it is in a little mud hut, or in a small village in Lodra, or in a nice home in Lahore, or in a remote village of Sindh, or in a remote part of Peshawar. That sense of belonging, that sense of home stays with me, regardless of the stature of development. So I have a home in the developing world and I have a home in the developed world. And both are very, very dear to me. And I judge not one vis-a-vis the other. And I love both of them unconditionally. I love both of them unconditionally because that love comes from deep within my soul. It has nothing to do with the development of that country or what is wrong with that country. It has nothing to do with it. And that is my complaint a lot of times to my fellow countrymen, in Pakistan in particular, where we always try to highlight what is wrong with this nation. We love to sit in living rooms and love to talk about why Pakistan has not done as well as such and such other country. And to me, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking because nobody points a finger at their own homeland and say what is wrong with it. We are part of the homeland. We should work towards its betterment and not point a finger. I'm often compelled to quote, and I will read out the Persian part of it and then translate. This is a part of the dialogue that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had with Shaitan, which is God had that dialogue with Satan at the time of creation of Adam. And it goes as following. It says, Guftam ke shar bafitrat, Guftam ke shar bafitrati khamish nihad and, Gufta ke khairi o nashanasi hami sharast. What it means is that when Adam asked God that in the very nature of what you've created is shar, is evil. And God answered that you fail to see the goodness and see only the evil is the very evil that you talk about. So just at the inception of this universe, God identified that when you are focusing on the evil and not on the goodness, when you're focusing on the weaknesses and not on the strengths, when you perceive evil and not the goodness, is evil by itself and is the mother of all evil and all ill. So I ask my countrymen, please stop looking at the shortcomings of your homeland. Start looking at the strengths. Start looking at what we have accomplished. We are a great nation. We have much to celebrate. There aren't that many nations in the world which are plagued by geography as much as Pakistan. Our geography by itself is rooted in insecurity. Our creation itself was rooted in insecurity. We created a nation state where none existed. We were plagued with multiple challenges right from the inception, from the time that we didn't have the budget to run the country because the money, the asset distribution was in question for a very long time. From the time that we had 3 wars that were kind of forced on us, from the time that Russia decided to invade Afghanistan, none of these things were our own problems. We've dealt with multiple challenges, and yet we are here to celebrate our 70th anniversary. That is in itself an accomplishment to be celebrated. We are a nation that has dealt with incredible odds. We've dealt with incredible odds. We are surrounded by much stronger countries. Yet in our own country, what is it that defines a nation? Look at what defines national assets. We have a very strong bureaucracy that runs the country. We have a very strong army that defends the country. We have a good situation with our political system evolving in its strength in spite of all odds and plans against it. That is something to be celebrated. We wrote one of the best constitutions. It's recognized globally. When you study constitution law, Pakistan's constitution of 1973 is quoted and cited as an example of a brilliant piece of legislation, a brilliant piece of law that was written by consensus. It was written through consensus-driven process where all the opposition political parties, minorities, Pakistan's mainstream parties, everybody stood together, and we have some of the finest dialogue that ever was to construct the constitution of a country. It's a brilliant piece. We should read that, we should celebrate that, we should announce that to the world. That it has been abrogated multiple times is a separate thing, but these are all the things that we need to take in a stride and see that as a path towards a destination, towards it's part of the journey. We have a strong industrial base. We're a very small country, yet Pakistan's industry's voice is heard across the globe. Be it from Sialkot, be it from Islamabad, be it from Lahore, be it in textiles, in surgical instruments, in sporting goods, in software now. We are making our mark everywhere. Pakistan has strong institutions in terms of educational institutions. NUST is one of the premier institutions. In spite of its young age, it's 135th ranking in the whole world. UET is in the top 200. We have good institutions. People, in fact, from this country go back and study in our engineering schools and in our medical colleges. That is to be celebrated. For a small country mired in so many challenges, we have such success stories. Our stock market is one of the strongest in the world. Last year it was one of the best performing economies. Pakistan can be credited with a lot of things. I could go on and on and on, but I do want to move on to the point that if we have so many successes, why is it that the narrative abroad, especially among the Pakistani diaspora, is always full of negativity and darkness and stories of pessimism? We need to change that. And I always wonder, where is that coming from? Why do we have this sense of hopelessness? Could it be that we have just moved away from the ideals of what it was that was Pakistan, or what it was supposed to be, as it was envisioned by the founding fathers? I'm sometimes, and a lot of my friends who know me closely know that whenever I'm in Lahore, every week I do go and spend a whole evening at Iqbal's mausoleum. It's a time of introspection and reflection for me. It comes from my sheer love for the man whose sense of desperation, or our sense of hopelessness of what is wrong with Pakistan, emanates from these two differences in thought process. We talk about what Pakistan can do for us, or what it should do for us, when the quintessential way of nation building, even as President Kennedy said, should be, what can I do for my nation? What can I do for my country? We need to dwell on that a little bit and think about it. Iqbal's ideals of an ideal Muslim nation, which is what we are, no matter how we cut it, I know there is a lot of apology around it these days, but the fact of the matter is that we are a Muslim nation founded as a Muslim state. Pakistan ka matlab kya? La ilaha illallah. That is where we started. Your very Qawmi Tarana talks about it. It's a Markaz-e-Yaqeen Shad path. So how come we are questioning the Yaqeen in the Yaqeen? Maybe that is what's wrong with us. We are looking towards economic prosperity as an index of a country's growth. When Iqbal said, "Ik fakr sikhata hai Sayyad ko Naqshiri," what happened to that qawm of Sayyads? The Naqshirs. Why are the Sayyads and Naqshirs looking for economic prosperity, a place to celebrate self-indulgence? Ik fakr se khulte hain israre jahangiri. Why are we trying to find the secrets to the universe in just mere economic prosperity? Ik fakr se qawmon mein miskini aur dilgiri. Why have we moved away from the miskini or dilgiri? Ik fakr se mitti mein khasiyat-e-iksiri. How has this matti, this soil, moved away so far away from the ideals of Iqbal? Why do we measure ourselves vis-a-vis other nations? Other nations have other challenges. They have different asset base. We have our own asset base, we have our own challenges, we have our own dreams and aspirations. Let's follow those dreams and aspirations. If we were going to always worry about measuring ourselves up to a stronger neighbor, then there was no need to have a separate homeland. We need to measure ourselves against our own ideology, our own philosophy, our own sets of challenges, our own sets of assets. And that is how we want to talk about Pakistan. There is a dignity in being a nation. There's a dignity in being a Muslim. There's no shame in being a Muslim, and there's no shame in coming from Pakistan. we are wrong is that when we think about Shad Bad Manzil-e Murad, we think of Pakistan as itself as a destination. When the entire Muslim philosophy is, when the entire philosophy of life, the falsafa-e-hayat that Iqbal enshrined in his thoughts was that there is no manzil. Life is not a destination, life is a journey towards betterment. No nation has the luxury of sitting and saying, now I have accomplished the destination. Every nation that made this mistake dissipated. Because we all struggle and go towards a better future. We continue the journey. Tu rehne varde shauq hai, manzil na kar kabool. Laila bhi hum nashi ho, to mahmil na kar kabool. ए जुए आप बढ़ के हो दरियाए तुम दो तेज, ए जुए आप बढ़ के हो दरियाए तुम दो तेज, साहिल तुझे अता हो तो साहिल न कर कबूल. खोया न जा सनम कदह कायनात में, महफिल गुदाज गर्मी महफिल न कर कबूल. Maybe what's wrong with you and me is that we're looking for the garmi mahfil. We're looking for a destination. We're looking for aram. We're looking for aisho ishrat, and that is not the Muslim way of life. Our way of life, if had our forefathers chosen that way of life and luxury, we would not be sitting here celebrating the 70th anniversary of Pakistan. Quaid-e-Azam gave up his marital life, gave up a flourishing practice. Iqbal gave up Atiya Begum his entire life. These people could have done better things with their lives. They could have lived a life of luxury. Gandhi ji, for that matter, did not need to give up his life of luxury. He was a Brahmin. He could have lived a life of privilege. All of these people, for that matter, look at our own founding fathers here in the US. All of them could have led a life of comfort. All of them gave up something that was precious to them to create something which was larger than life, something that their children and grandchildren would benefit from. So how come you and I sit here and we demand the luxury when we should be working on creating a better future for our children, for our generations of grandchildren? Maybe that is the fault that is in ourselves. So every time we talk about ihtisabs, we need to start with an element of khud ihtisabi. Let us start with introspection. What are we not doing that needs to be done that will create the greatness that we seek, that will create the future that we need to create, that will create the futures that our forefathers dreamed of and worked hard upon and left for us to continue the journey, not to sit relaxed and thinking, oh, I have a destination, now I need to relax. And now the government needs to do this, and now the politicians need to do this, and now so and so needs to do this. No, we all need to do something. We all need to do something. The most important part, I could go on for this forever because there are so many other parts of Iqbal that should be enshrined in our way of life, in the way of life that this nation should be run, in the way the world should be run. But I'll try to be brief and end here by talking about what can we do, all of us sitting here in this room, the Pakistani diaspora, what can we do to contribute to Pakistan? I would say the first and foremost important thing would be to be the ambassadors of goodwill for that. We should adopt both homelands as they are our own flesh and blood and love them both as passionately as we do one or the other. We don't have to choose between the two. The Pakistani diaspora here can be the bridge that will connect the two nations. Both US and Pakistan have a long history together. I mean, from the time that we did the shuttle diplomacy and connected China to United States to the time that we've been called the most allied of the allied. We have a long journey together as the two nations. The Pakistani community needs to step up and do what its diplomatic corps has been doing admirably for the last 70 years. So we can strengthen our diplomatic efforts through community engagement. Second thing should be, we should go back to Pakistan too and visit all the success stories there. After all, that soil produced the likes of Abdul Sattaridhi, and bring those success stories here. Share them with the community. Don't come back and tell me I got sick because I drank dirty water or the mosquitoes bit me. Go back and see what is good in there. Bring back that story. Qamar Saab is sitting right here. His grandson this summer visited UWR. He worked tirelessly, a 15-year-old. I was so proud of him. I was actually very, very proud of him. A 15-year-old boy, day in and day out, put in the hours and worked in Pakistan without complaining. That's something we can do. My own niece went back to volunteer sometime. It's been a year and a half, we can't get her back. She wants to work there. So we can contribute and build the bridges, not just with the previous generation, but with the future generation. We have to invest in our children and build those connections beyond the first generation of Pakistanis. And that is something that we can contribute. We can get engaged in all the good projects that are going on in Pakistan. This is an amazingly giving country. While I'm on the subject of talking about children going back and contributing, I would like to talk about some of the best education technology companies in Pakistan, in United States, in my line of work, have given their software, their intellectual property and their content for free to UWR, which is a huge thing. Nobody does that. So as we build the bridges in the community, this is the collective benefit that we can take back and connect the two homelands. So we should work on that. Last but not the least, if you cannot do any of the above or contribute in any other way, please stop disparaging Pakistan and just make dua for us. Because there is a power in prayer. If you can do nothing else, give us your good feelings, your good sincere wishes, and make dua for all of us, for all the Pakistanis struggling in strife. All of you and me came here and we're leading good lives. But the people back home are the ones who've taken the brunt of the 70 years and they've kept the country going in spite of all odds. So if we can do nothing else, let's make dua for them and strengthen them. Pakistan, Zindabad.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's give her a big hand, please.